You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Now we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers. If you have a question yourself, you can visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Okay, Brother Shabir, the first question is regarding God. The person is asking, what are your views regarding God? Is he everywhere, or is it that his knowledge is everywhere?
Well, this is a question on which we should not be too dogmatic, because to think about God is to be thinking about something that is beyond our immediate experience. We know physical things and we can describe them very well because we see them and touch them. When we speak about the soul, we speak about angels, we speak about God, we're speaking about things we haven't experienced, and we can only use language from things we have experienced to describe this. So when we say that God is everywhere, if somebody says that, well, then we're using the experience from our understanding of what it would mean for something to be everywhere. The counter to that is some people say you shouldn't say it that way, because if you say that God is everywhere, you mean that God is even in filthy things. And obviously those who say that God is everywhere don't really mean it that way. They mean that God is accessible everywhere. Wherever you turn, there is God. In fact, the Quran says, "Aynama tawallu fathamma wajhullah." Wherever you turn, there is the face of God.
Or at least the notion that God is with you everywhere.
Yes, yes. Wherever you are, God is there with you. So from that, people get the sense that God is here, there, and everywhere. At the same time, the Quran speaks of God being high. Sabbihism rabbikal a'la. Glory be to God, to your Lord, the highest. And in Surah 69, God asks, do you feel secure from the one who is in the heavens, lest he should cause the earth to quake with you? So from this, some people get the understanding that God is over and above us, and he is high in the heavens. So we shouldn't speak of him being here, there, and everywhere. Some Muslims think that it is a kind of a deviation from the pure faith if you speak of him being here, there, and everywhere, and rather we should say that God is in the heavens. They support this further by a report which says that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, asked a woman, where is God? And the woman, in a very simple way, said, Fis sama, in the heavens. And then the Prophet testified to this woman's real and true faith. So they say, okay, this is the simple way to say it, and that's how we should say it. We shouldn't be simplistic about our faith, but if one wanted to say it in a simple way, that's the way to say it. And if one also thought that God is accessible everywhere, then that is also true to the Quran's teachings.
All right, nice answer. The next question is about God as well. If God exists, why is there suffering in the world?
This is a more difficult question to tackle, and some atheists use the fact of suffering in the world as proof that God does not exist, because they say if God did exist, he would remove all of this suffering. We would answer that the fact of suffering does not prove that God does not exist. In fact, there are other good reasons for believing that God exists. You need a creator, you need a fashioner, you need a designer, otherwise the universe would not be here, just to put it in a brief way. So then how do we explain suffering? This is the problem then. So the explanation would be that God has, in his wisdom, good reasons for allowing suffering. Suffering is not there for the end as an end in itself, but as something leading to some greater good that we do not always perceive and fully understand. But it may be that, for example, by allowing a certain amount of suffering in the world, God actually draws people back to himself and back to good things. Sometimes by seeing the loss of things around us and the loss of human beings, we come to appreciate each other much more. Coming out of the recent tsunami in Japan is the story that a woman, was there on the site, and the picture was shown of her, everything around her being devastated, and she searched frantically for her boy and the kindergarten where she had left her child, but that too had been devastated by this recent happening. And then eventually she did find her son, and that to her was worth everything in the world. It didn't matter to her that everything else was destroyed, but she realized how much she valued the life of her son in comparison with everything else. So sometimes an event like this, as dreadful as it is, leads to a greater good in some other way that we do not fully perceive. The greater sense of accountability that humans have, this sense that we're here in a world that is hostile to our existence, and that we rely on the protection of the one true God to whom we eventually return. All of these heightened senses of responsibility, of well-being with God and faithfulness to God, all of this, the channeling of our minds towards a new direction, rather than thinking of the earth as being our home forever, we now realize more than ever that the life hereafter is where we are journeying towards. All of this, in fact, leads to greater good in the long run.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. This is another question we have from a labor and delivery nurse, and the person is asking that is saying that some medicines are pork derived, such as, she gives some examples. One example is insulin. If medically necessary, would it be permissible for one to use these medications? And she says that they're normally injected, not ingested.
My answer is yes, and this is easy to come by, because we know that there are certain general principles in the Islamic faith that would lead to a yes answer here without any dispute. One is that if a haram or prohibited substance is transformed to a new substance, that is not essentially the same thing as it was before, then the new substance would be permissible. Mm-hmm. An example of this given in the classical literature was with the transformation of wine into vinegar. The wine obviously is forbidden for Muslims to consume, but the vinegar is not. This is entirely permissible. So the haram or prohibited substance has been transformed into something that is essentially permissible. There's no harm in using it. Mm-hmm. Second,
so how can we tell when it's transformed fully or sufficiently?
Well,
for it to be considered a new product?
Yeah, in a simple way, I was going to actually get to that. Okay. When pork is said to be prohibited, it's the eating of the meat that is prohibited. Many classical Muslim scholars allowed, for example, for the use of the pigskin, because they said that what God has prohibited in the Quran is the eating of the lahm, the meat of the swine. But God did not prohibit using other aspects of the pig. And so we can see then that it's the eating of the thing. So are you eating the pig here, or are you using some derivative product as medicine?
All right, we have to leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
And we'd like to hear from you. Please visit our website, www.quranspeaks.com. Send us your comments, your suggestions, and of course, your donations. I'm Safiya Ali. For all of us here at Let the Quran Speak, thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.